Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. It's a beautiful Monday morning. Today is September 8th, 2025. We get together most weekday mornings at this time, 8 o'clock Central. And we're going to have a little bit of a different conversation today, but I think it's one that'll be very relevant to those of you who are either current distribution partners or considering becoming one. So shared on the screen here is an example of a landing page that we provide. We provide a landing page to those of you that want one. You don't have to use our landing page. And in fact, you may want to create your own. And the truth is, you don't even have to have a landing page to be a distribution partner. But we're going to talk about that a little bit more in a moment. So let's get over to the inset. So of course, we're 509 South Pacific. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. Our website, obviously not shown today, but it's 509pacific.org. If you wanted support, we recommend texting 903-347-8042. And we post most of the training, so you can see a pretty extensive library of prior trainings here. In terms of what we do in a nutshell, is as a nonprofit that received a grant, we must meet or comply with three mandates. The first of which is to help improve financial literacy. And I was talking to Brian this morning. He's one of our top distribution partners. He's, I think, got three new clients to submit in today. And Brian and I were having a really fruitful discussion this morning that so many people, they don't know what Brian knows. They don't know what you all know. They don't know what I know. And that lack of financial literacy causes them to either be unsuccessful in getting capital to start or grow a business, or to take a very long problematic journey because they don't know what you know. And if we can educate them, not tell them what to do, but educate them with facts, separate emotions, and help them understand key processes, it makes a world of difference to others. So this is what 1/3 of what we do, and I'd ask each of you to have a heartfelt commitment to helping others, because not everyone lives the lifestyles that you do. This is our company car here, and I know most of you have a really nice company car as well. But the truth is, the average person can't afford cars like you have and like I have. But through financial literacy, everyone can have great success. So that's mandate number one, educating, and we ask you to help us do that. The second mandate is we give away free shelf corps. And that's similar to, again, what Brian and I were talking about earlier today. What if a client already has a business? Why do they need one of these shelf corps? Why don't they just use their current business? Well, think about that for a minute. So if they have a current business, is it doing well? Is it compliant? Is it fundable? Yes or no? Let's say it's yes. Well, great. That's rare for our clientele, but great. That's great. All right. So do we want to use their entity that's performing well for the capital raise, or do they want to use one of these free shelf corps? Because you and I are not novices. We know, back to financial literacy, that when that client borrows money from the lender, that lender is going to put a lien against the business that's borrowing the money. So then you and I need to educate the client. Well, which business do you want to have a lien against? Do you want to have a lien against your good business that's performing well? Or do we want to use one of these free shelf corps and let it have the lien against it? Because again, we hope that their future is prosperous. But if they do run into problem and they had to give up a business for a lack of repayment, would they rather give up their current business that's performing really well, or the shelf corp that we provided? Of course, any logical person would want to keep their good business and sacrifice the shelf corp. So it's really not an issue of, oh, I already have a business. Okay, do you want to pledge that business as collateral? Do you want to have a lien against your business? Or do you want to take one of these free shelf corps and use it? If you explain it properly through financial literacy, I don't think you'll get pushback on giving them one of the free shelf corps. Now, the free shelf corp has a processing fee, and you get to determine what that processing fee is because that puts money in your pocket up front. The third and final of the three mandates is to leverage that knowledge and those shelf corps to go get funding. And people will ask, well, what's the max funding? I don't even know what that means, max funding. I mean, it's whatever the client wants and needs. They, of course, have to qualify for it. The floor, the minimum, the promise that we make to the client is, hey, if you go through this process, we'll guarantee you a minimum of 100,000, and that's a written guarantee in writing. You're not at risk for that. That's a guarantee that we make through our agreement with them, which we call phase two. So if something went wrong, which it never has, but if something went wrong, they're not coming back to you with the issue, it'd come back to us. But we have 100% success. Every client that goes through our process that participates will raise at least 100,000. Again, pessimists will say, well, 100,000, that's not enough. Well, we're just saying it's the minimum. We're not saying it's the maximum. So with that today, and that's kind of common topic for us each morning, I want to spend a little bit more time talking about the reseller marketing program. I was going to say continuously, that's probably an exaggeration. We're frequently looking at our haves and our have-nots. So there's those of you that are performing with more volume than others, like Brian today. Brian's bringing in 3 new clients today. There's some of you that have not brought in 3 clients in the past month. So why is it that some of you perform at a high level and others not so much? Well, there could be a variety of reasons, but I think it's having the tools and the infrastructure. So let's talk about the reseller marketing program. And sometimes you'll hear us refer to that as RMP. It's just the acronym, the initials. So what we provide with the reseller marketing program starts, it's not all that it is, but it starts with a landing page. Well, why would you want a landing page? I would argue that if you're going to have some sort of marketing or outreach, you need somewhere to send your prospects to. And this is a nice place to send them to. Now, you might say, well, if I send them to my landing page, but I need to get them under contract, right? So let's go ahead and demonstrate. So this is a real landing page from one of our distribution partners. The landing pages, though, are standardized. I guess if you wanted something custom, we could work out something, but normally we use the same or a very similar template. So yeah, this is my company car. If you want us to create one with your company car, sure. All right, I see Corinthian has a question about the car. As she asks, is it legal? Well, it'll go 0 to 60 in about 2.5 seconds. It does have a license plate on the back, but none on the front, so I guess it's illegal. It has radar jammers here, and in the back, and so you're able to not be tracked by police. Is that legal? I don't know. The engine's in back and it's been tuned. Is that legal? I don't know. But regardless, it's our company car. If you don't want to use our company car, we can use your company car. But on the landing page, separate from the backdrop, it simply states Shelf Corporation, fast and easy way to qualify for business funding and SBA loans. Now you might say, well, why is ABL, if asset-based lending ABL, such a big deal? Why don't we put it on there? Because most people have never heard of it. So if they've not heard of it, now we're going to educate them about it when they go through the drip sequence, which I'll get to. But most people don't know about ABL, or they think, oh, they don't qualify because they don't have assets. So here, we're just trying to use a statement that'll capture their attention. And then there is a description, and the description is normally standardized and it works really well. And frankly, it's what you as a distribution partner would probably tell someone. We work with an affiliated 501c3 nonprofit that's received a grant to provide you a free shelf corp. In about 7 days, you'll have a fundable business entity, including commercial address. And of course, the commercial address is free. You know that. All we ask them to do is pay for the mail forwarding. It includes a business plan, financials, collateral, etc. Then, if you'd like, we can help you use that shelf corp for business funding financing with a minimum of 100,000 guaranteed. So these paragraphs are important because this is what's in phase 1, the shelf corp agreement, which you as a reseller facilitate. And then this is phase 2, which we facilitate. So let's go back and read it again. If you'd like, we can help you use that shelf court for business funding financing with a minimum of 100,000 guaranteed. Have bad credit, not a problem with credit suite. Fill out the form to participate. So paragraph one is a very tight synopsis of your proposition. Let's get you into a shelf corp. And then once we deliver that shelf corp, then we move them, if they wish, into phase two. All right. Lamy says there should be a maximum. Well, I disagree, Lamy, because an individual's maximum is based upon their credibility, their fundability. So it's not some arbitrary number. So I respectfully disagree. All right, so with the landing page, we got standard backdrop, standard content. And so the goal is to get your prospects to enter your sales funnel. So let's go ahead and do a test. Test, test. We'll put in our text number, which I should remember what that is, but I don't. It's 903-347-8042, hopefully. And then we'll put in our email. So again, in a perfect world, and it's not always possible, in a perfect world, you'd actually be in front of or on the phone with your prospect when they get the landing page, because if you walk them through it, nearly everyone will do it. If you send it to them and you're kind of absentee, maybe you placed an ad. Well, of course, you're not going to be with them at that time, but if it's possible, be with them when they're going through the process because you'll have a higher level conversion. So they put in their information and we hit request. So then what happens? I think I had a glitch. Maybe I had it open too long. But what it will do then, let me check the text line. And sure enough, it did. It sent a text, and the text says, and I know it's not shared on the screen, the text says, to complete your request for information. Oh, I lost my screen. Hold on. To complete your request for information about Shelf Corporation, simply reply with the word yes. And I can see what happened. I made a mistake. When I set this up this morning, this should have taken them to the client agreement automatically. I put in the wrong link. So that's my apology. That's why it refreshed and went back to the same page. That normally wouldn't happen. Normally it would go to the actual client agreement so they could proceed. But with that being said, now that once they get the text, which is immediate, just as I shared with you verbally, and they type yes, now they're in the drip marketing sequence. The drip marketing sequence is great because it's going to drip to them over an 8-day period. So let's go ahead and pull our notes back up. So RMP includes the landing page, which we've covered, and then the drip marketing. So what does the drip marketing mean? It's 10 text messages over 8 days. And I could give you more specifics, but the first text is in 1 minute. The second text is in 15 minutes. The third text is in 30 minutes. The fourth text is in 1 hour. The fifth text is the next day. And then we go daily thereafter. So with that being said, we're able to continue to encourage them to sign up. We're also encourage them to give a call to the reseller or the distribution partner. We're providing them links for further training that they can go through on demand. So to no surprise, those of you, the haves, are frequently using a landing page to drive people into, and then secondly, a drip marketing page. But let me go ahead and show you what it should have went to, and that was my mistake. When I set this up this morning, I was multitasking with some of the calls you had. But let me change this and I'll show you what actually will happen. It should have been this link I put in. So once I put in that test, so forth, it should have automatically brought up the distribution partner's contract. So you can see this is Michael Newton, and I can see if Michael's on here. He normally is. Let me see if Michael's on here right now. Well, ironically, he's not. But anyway, this is one we did over the weekend. A lot of times people will want to brand with their company. Michael didn't. That's fine. And Michael has a company, but I think he feels that people are more likely to buy from a person than buy from a company. It's up to you. But it would say Express Shelf Corp, and then it would have your company name at the top. And then it would start with the flyer, and the flyer is a nice synopsis of what they're getting with the Shelf Corp. It's generic, so it doesn't have our information on it. We do ask them to initial because we want them to acknowledge that they saw the flyer. What we've learned is if you start a contractual package with a flyer rather than going right into the contract, people like it better. And then the second page of the packet is the comparison sheet. And again, this is created in a generic version, so it doesn't steer them away from the prospect, and it helps them evaluate what they're getting with Michael Newton's proposition versus what is available elsewhere. So again, it asks them to initial off on it, and then it actually goes to the client agreement. And so then this is the actual enrollment, the contract whereby the client can enroll. So what should have worked if I would have been more detailed this morning is once the prospect fills this out, two things actually happen. It drops them into the drip marketing campaign, but the screen would instantly go over to their contract. So if they're ready to sign up, then great, let's get them signed up right now. If they're not ready, then the drip marketing can move them forward. In addition, one of the other benefits with the RMP is it allows us to pay a 5% commission on the capital raise. Now, for ABL, it's going to be 50K plus, right? Because we know ABL started a million. It's just the way they were designed, not because of you or me. It's just the way they are. So if you're making 5% of a million, that's 50,000. So again, I know. For a lot of you, 50,000, not a big deal with the Matthew Burrell and Rod Francis. Some of you, an extra 50,000 a day or a week's not a big deal. But for the average person, earning 50,000 for feeding someone into your landing page is a pretty incredible proposition. So those are the three main uh, benefits. Michael has a friend that he had referred in, and so it's also allowing us to pay 5% overrides. So Michael brought in, oh, I'm drawing a blank on his name. Let's see if he's here. Sylvester. Michael, who I just showed you, well, this is his landing page. So Michael brought in Sylvester, and we're not MLM or network marketing, but now Sylvester has his own landing page. So Sylvester will make 5%, his 50,000, and then Michael earns a 5% override. So let's do the math on that, because if you understand it, it's pretty important. I see Sandy is asking, well, why do we need to have the landing page to get the overrides? Because now everything's feeding into our system, so it's automated. If we're not using this type of tool, then you're losing several advantages, including, well, we're losing some efficiency because then the agreements are not automatically populating on our end and tracking in the sales hierarchy. All right, so and I've lost my track there a bit. So with that being said, I was going to give the example. So a real example. So we'll do asterisk. Michael brought in Sylvester. Hope I spelled that right. Maybe I misspelled it. How do I spell Sylvester? All right. So Michael, and this is true. Michael Newton brought in Sylvester. So then Sylvester sold his first client. Now, Sylvester was surprised. What happened is through his landing page, he did some sort of marketing. I don't know what that marketing was, but he drove someone in. That person signed up, never talked to him. And then the system emailed him a signed contract ready for him to invoice. So with the RMP, we're facilitating the drip marketing, the follow-up, and the education, but we're not doing the invoicing. It would be the distribution partner's responsibility. So then what does that mean financially? Well, Sylvester will receive 50,000 plus. Well, why is that? Why would it seems too good to be true? Why would Sylvester get 50,000? Well, because almost everyone, not everyone, but almost everyone goes through ABL, asset-based lending. If you don't remember what that is, you can go back to our YouTube channel. So that's a million of a million, a minimum of a million capital raise. And so if Sylvester is getting 5% of that, that is 50,000, obviously. And then since Michael brought in Sylvester, and again, we're not network marketing, we're not MLM, nothing like that. But the bottom line is Michael gets overrides on Sylvester. So Michael will also receive an override equivalent. Michael will receive an override of 50K plus. So the override matches what the front end is commission. Now, I think Todd's picking up, well, we're paying out 10%. How much are we charging the client? So our agreements, our model has a 10% performance fee. If you're wanting something more than 10%, then we'll have to talk about it offline because that's not really the way the model's set up. But at 10%, yeah, if we're paying out 5 to Sylvester and an override of 5 to Michael or to you or whomever the partners are, we're paying out all that we bring in, which is fine. As a nonprofit, we don't need or count on that money on our side, but we need that to motivate you all. All right, so who has questions, comments, questions, comments, concerns on the RMP? We covered a fair amount. All right, Shelly's asking about cost. So the cost of RMP, it's free, but we need to talk about how it's free. So there is a deposit paid to have it developed, and deposit is fully returned after first deal. Because our experience has been if we give things away free and there's no performance associated with it, everybody wants free, right? But then we spend all of our time and energy on free, and if people aren't going to use it, it's a horrible waste. So there is a $9.99 deposit, less than 1,000 for us to develop it, get it all set up with your contracts, your phone number, your e-contract link like I just showed a moment ago, and then you'll get it back once you've done one deal through your landing page. So crazy simple. Now, we don't want dabblers to do the RMP because frankly, we're subsidizing it, right? Because there's time and effort to develop and manage it. Even though we're charging the $9.99, it's coming back to you. So in essence, you're getting it for free and our team's doing the work. So if you don't plan on being active on an ongoing basis, I think it's overkill. You don't need to have the RMP to be a distribution partner. You don't need it to get paid. You can use the editable contract that we provide each of you when you signed up to be a reseller, which costs nothing. And you can skip all of this if you wish. All right, so let's go ahead and work through questions, comments, concerns that you all have. All right, yeah, so Kenny's bringing up a good point about leads. So this is a sales funnel that I think is very good. I think it's very good. And for the price, you can't beat it. But Kenny's bringing up a point. You're going to have leads, right? Because you could have this, and if you don't do anything directly or indirectly to drive people in, what are you going to do? You're going to make zero money. So Kenny is recommending Fiverr. What some of you have started to use is Motion, and it's called usemotion.com. And I don't get paid for this. I don't get paid from Fiverr or from Use Motion, but a number of you now are using Motion. So you're actually using, I know this sounds kind of outlandish, but AI employees. And so you can build a sales team using AI. They can develop leads, approach leads, schedule appointments, drive them into your landing page, so forth. I don't know that that page was helpful, sorry. But the bottom line is you're going to need some activity to drive people to your landing page. People always want to know price. Of course, the more sophisticated approach is what's it worth, but let's just go to pricing. So if you go to pricing on Motion, they have different price points, but it's a bit of a misnomer. Well, most people say, okay, well, I can afford $30 or $29. But what you have to keep in mind is you got to look at what's included. You need, in my opinion, the sales representative line for if you're going to use this to drive people in. So the first line wouldn't work, the second line would. So you're looking at around $49 a month. But the benefit of that, again, I'm not a salesperson for them, but now you're getting an AI salesperson that's working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for what was that, $50 a month? I mean, try to go find a salesperson that'll do anything for $50 at all, let alone work 24/7, 365 for $50 a month, 600 a year. But that again is up to you. That's what you bring to the table. Your job is to go educate. Let's go back to the landing page and back. So, as a distribution partner, your role is to help us educate, create awareness. And then secondly is to drive people in and get them these free shelf corps. And this landing page helps automate that for you. But you do not have to do this. I don't really care. Frankly, it takes a lot of our time and energy. So if you can be successful without these tools, I'd say you do it your way. But if what you're doing is not working, I would consider this. All right, so let's get back to the questions, comments, concerns that you all have. Going through this. Kenny's bringing up OBD. So we ran a beta test on a different marketing platform called OBD, Outsource Business Development, but that has come and gone. That's only available to branch offices going forward. It's not available to resellers. So, Kenny, you're right. OBD, something we talked about in the past. It was a beta test. We made it available for everyone originally, but now it's closed to the general public. You have to have a branch office, which you're welcome to get, but that's not my point today. All right, let's see. Marie, yes, does any of you have individualized questions that warrant us like looking something up and solving something? Putting it in the group Zoom, not real effective, but you can text us those individual requests or concerns or demands, whatever you want, and that will be handled one-on-one. Let's see what other questions we have. Well, I want to ask you before we leave, and you're not going to hurt my feelings one way or the other, but do you think if you were using a landing page that you would generate more income? Yes or no, if you could type it into the Q&A. And if you say no, I don't care, but I wonder if you feel the way I do, because you want somewhere to drive your prospects to, and you can say, well, I could go build a website. I think a website's too much. I don't think you want to create a flow of prospects into a website that has lots of information. You want to get them into your sales funnel. Now, if you're good at developing your own sales funnel, do it that way. But I think we need to get them into a sales funnel. We need to stop thinking, I just need to drive them to a website. I disagree. You don't need to drive them to a website. You need to drive them into your sales funnel. And this way, I believe, is an efficient way. I mean, they're only putting 4 pieces of information in, checking the box. And then, even though I know I didn't set this demo up correctly, that was my fault. But once they hit request, it will immediately pop up your contract. I know this is Michael's, but it'll immediately pop up your contract. And some people will say, oh, great, I'm ready to move forward. But you know what? Not everyone's going to be ready to move forward. Therefore, now we've got them into that drip marketing campaign. Our drip marketing campaign is based around texts, not emails. Why is that? Well, they've opted in, they've agreed for the text, so we're not spamming them. And texts just have proven to be more effective in today's environment than emails, one of which is the deliverability is so much higher, right? When most people get a text, they look at it. Emails can get caught into filters and get bogged down with spam and just so much volume. All right, so let me see. Brian, yeah, and again, I don't dispute Brian. Brian says he's brought in 10 clients without any website or landing page, and I agree. I agree. So this is not a prerequisite for success. And Brian is an example that several of you are examples of that. But for most, I think we would agree, we go back to the sales funnel, it makes sense to have a sales funnel. And if you're good at developing your own, hey, go do it, but we'll build you one for free, and free was defined. All right, let's see if there's any other questions that we need to address. Selena's asking about the credit sweep. Okay, so let's go back to pull this up. And so there's two aspects of the client process, and we were talking about that a moment ago. Let's go back to the contract. No. Let's go back to the landing page. Sorry, landing page. So what I tried to explain earlier, so we got phase one, phase two of implementation. Phase one is getting the prospect, the shelf corp, so we have the entity to go do the capital raise off of in phase two. So I think Selena's taking issue, which is fine. And Selena is one of our top performers. She got a big old commission check, commission wire last week. So congratulations on that, Selena. But so we have phase one, which is what you do as a distribution partner, getting them the shelf corp. And then we go to phase two, which we handle. It's optional. They don't have to do this if they don't want to do it. But with phase two, now we're taking that shelf corp and then going for funding, whether it be ABL, SBA, or whatever. The credit sweep is included in phase two. So yeah, we've had a few people that signed up on the front end, phase one, with the reseller, like, where's my credit sweep? Where's my credit sweep? It's not part of the deliverables. It's not listed, so it's not misrepresented. It's part of phase two, which is a separate and distinct agreement that we provide them if they want to participate. And in fact, we can go back to Michael. So we said we have the flyer, we have the comparison sheet, but let's fire all the way down to the bottom. And so it lists the free resources, and then it gets to the point of optional. And it asks the client, do you want help with funding financing, which is phase two? And if that's the case, we're going to send you a separate packet, and it's not part of this agreement. So we're clarifying with them, phase one, what you're delivering is not funding, it's funding prep. Like if you wanted to build a house, you need land first. Just because you buy a piece of land, you don't get a house. But without the land, it's a prerequisite. You can't have a house. So here, what you're doing is you're giving them or providing them the business that we can build the capital raise off of. All right. Well, I think we covered a lot. Again, if you have individualized questions, recommend texting us 903-347-8042. And from there, we will roll forward. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Let us know if you need anything. See you tomorrow morning. Bye.